You know that feeling when you're scrolling through a dozen guitars, wondering if you're about to drop your hard-earned cash on something that sounds great on the spec sheet but ends up feeling like a mismatch for the music you actually play? I get that hesitation. You want an instrument that not only looks stunning on stage but also delivers the tone you need without forcing you into compromises you'll regret later. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's talk about the Gretsch Synchromatic Falcon in Snowcrest White and see if it really lives up to the hype for your particular situation. First off, the Falcon is a Hollowbody electric with a maple top, maple back and sides, and an ebony fingerboard. That combination is classic Gretsch, aimed at giving you that warm, resonant character you hear on vintage recordings, while still packing the punch of modern humbuckers. The two humbucking pickups are designed to capture both the airy, open sound of a hollow body and the thicker bite you need when you crank up the amp for a rockabilly solo. The Bigsby B60 vibrato adds a subtle, vintage-style warble that's perfect for those little flourishes you hear in surf or early rock tunes. It's not a whammy bar built for dive bombs, but it does let you add tasteful pitch modulation without losing the instrument's natural sustain. If you're a player who spends a lot of time in a small club or a home studio, the Falcon's hollow construction can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the acoustic resonance means you get a rich, full-bodied tone even when you dial back the amp. I've heard guitarists describe it as almost organ-like when they roll back to a clean setting and let the body sing. That can be a huge advantage if you're layering tracks or want a guitar that fills out the mix without a lot of pedal help. On the other hand, the same resonance can make the instrument a bit more prone to feedback if you push the gain too hard, especially on stage with a lot of volume. In practice, I've seen players who love the Falcon lock in a moderate gain setting, use a well-placed noise gate, and still get a gritty tone that sits nicely behind a vocal. If you're planning on playing heavy metal or shredding with high gain distortion for extended periods, the feedback potential might become a real nuisance, and you'll probably be better off with a solid body that isolates the pickups from the body's vibrations. One of the most noticeable practical strengths is the feel of the ebony fingerboard. Ebony is smoother and a bit faster under the fingers than the more common rosewood, which translates into quicker fretting for runs and bends. If you've spent any time playing jazz standards or rockabilly licks that demand rapid position shifts, you'll appreciate that slick surface. The maple top, while visually striking in the Snowcrest white finish, also contributes a bright snap to the attack, helping the notes cut through a mix that might otherwise get muddy with a fully hollow instrument. Pair that with the Bigsby, and you have a guitar that can transition from clean, jangly chords to a slightly overdriven twang with just a slight tweak of the vibrato lever. Now, let's talk about who should actually consider buying this. If you're a guitarist who loves the vintage aesthetic, think 1950s rock and roll, surf, or even modern indie that leans on retro tones, the Falcon ticks a lot of boxes. It's also a solid choice for session players who need a versatile instrument that can sit comfortably in a variety of genres without sounding out of place. The price point for a Gretsch with this level of craftsmanship is usually on the higher side, but the combination of two quality humbuckers, a Bigsby, and the premium woods means you're paying for a complete package rather than a stripped-down shell. For someone who already owns a solid body and is looking for a second guitar that adds tonal variety, the Falcon can be a worthwhile addition. Conversely, if you're primarily a metal guitarist chasing screaming leads and aggressive palm-muted riffs, this might not be the best fit. The hollow body can make high-gain tones feel less focused, and the natural feedback could become a distraction during intense playing. Also, if you're on a tight budget and are looking for a first electric that will survive daily gigging and the occasional bump, a solid body with a simpler bridge might give you more durability for less money. The Falcon's finish, while gorgeous, does require a bit more care to keep the Snowcrest white-looking pristine scratches show up more readily on the glossy surface. There are a couple of practical weaknesses that are worth mentioning. The Bigsby, while a classic feature, can be a bit finicky when it comes to tuning stability. If you're a player who likes to dive deep into bends or uses the vibrato heavily during a live set, you might need to spend some extra time setting up the tailpiece to keep the guitar in tune between songs. That's not a deal breaker, but it's something.